The crime lord was stepping out of his Mercedes when something soft touched his hand. Not a weapon, not a threat, a crumpled $5 bill. He looked down. A little girl stood before him, hair tangled, sneakers falling apart, both hands trembling, as she held up the money like it was a fortune. "Please," she whispered. "This is everything I own." His security moved instantly, too close, too threatening. But he raised one finger, freezing them mid-step. No one had ever paid Dante Cross $5. People paid him in loyalty, in fear, in blood, never pocket change. He crouched down, meeting her eyes. "What do you want?" She swallowed hard, forcing words past her terror. "I need you to find someone," she said, "because nobody else will look." That made him pause. She leaned closer, voice breaking. "They said, if I tell anyone, my sister dies." That's when he saw the bruises on her wrists, the torn collar of her shirt, and how her eyes kept darting to the shadows behind her. Dante slowly took the $5. Because he needed it, but because whatever she was about to ask would cost far more than money. Stay until the end, because what this child said next made a man who'd buried his conscience years ago feel something he thought was dead. Before we begin, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now, let's dive in. Dante Cross had controlled the West Side for 12 years. He'd built his empire on 3 principles: never break your word, never leave witnesses, and never involve children in business. His territory stretched from the industrial district to the harbor. Everyone knew the rules. You paid on time, you stayed invisible, and you never, ever brought kids into his world. The Thursday evening started routinely. Dante was leaving the Iron Rose, his legitimate front, a high-end steakhouse where he conducted his real business. He'd just collected from the local businesses. Protection fees, loan repayments, the usual transactions that kept his machine running smoothly. His black Mercedes waited curbside, engine idling, while Jackson and Reed flanked the entrance like stone sentries. The neighborhood understood this ritual. When Dante emerged at exactly 9 p.m., people vanished. Shop owners dimmed their lights. Parents pulled children inside. Smart people crossed the street before he noticed them. But this little girl didn't cross the street. She didn't run. She walked straight toward him, clutching that wrinkled bill in her tiny fist. Dante had seen desperate people. Grown men who owed impossible debts. Business owners drowning in interest. Gamblers who'd bet everything on the wrong fight. Desperation had a texture, a smell, a way of making people reckless. This was different. This child wasn't desperate the way adults crumble. She was focused, deliberate, like she'd rehearsed this moment in her mind 1,000 times. Her clothes were clean but worn, patched where fabric had given up. Her sneakers had holes near the toes, but her eyes held something Dante hadn't seen in years. Pure, unshakable determination. "What's your name?" he asked, still crouched at her level. His men shifted nervously, hands moving toward concealed weapons. They'd never seen their boss give anyone this much attention, especially not a kid. "Mia," she breathed. "Mia Chen." "Mia Chen," Dante repeated slowly. "How old are you, Mia?" 8. Her voice got quieter with each answer, but she held her ground. "Almost 9. Dante glanced at Jackson, who shrugged slightly. In their world, children meant complications. Children meant questions, investigations, heat nobody wanted. Professional criminals avoided kids entirely. "Where are your parents, Mia?" That's when the tears started. Not dramatic sobbing, but silent tears that rolled down her cheeks while she fought to keep speaking. "My dad's deployed overseas, military. He doesn't know what happened." She paused, breathing shakily. "They took my sister 4 days ago." Dante felt ice settle in his chest. "Who took her?" Mia glanced over her shoulder, scanning the empty street like predators might emerge from the darkness. "The bad men. They said she owed them money for drugs, but Emma doesn't do drugs. She's 19. She works at the hospital as a nursing assistant. She's good, She held up the $5 bill again, and Dante could see it was worn soft from being folded countless times. Probably her allowance, maybe her lunch money for a week. These men, Dante said carefully. What did they look like? Mia wiped her nose. Big, scary. One had a scar across his face. Another one had tattoos all over his arms like flames. They drove a gray van with tinted windows. Dante's jaw tightened. The Volkov crew. They'd been encroaching on his territory for months, pushing synthetic drugs, running extortion schemes, making life hell for everyone. But kidnapping someone's sister was a new violation, even for them. Mia, where's your mother? She died when I was 5. Cancer. She said it matter-of-factly, like she'd explained it to countless well-meaning adults. It's just me, Emma, and Dad. Was just me and Emma. Reed stepped forward. Boss, we have a schedule. Dante silenced him with a look. In 12 years of running crews, eliminating threats, and controlling territory, he'd developed rules that kept him alive and out of prison. Rule 1. Never get emotional about business. Rule 2. Never trust completely. Rule 3. Never, ever get involved with kids. But watching Mia Chen clutch her $5 like it could buy miracles, Dante felt something shift in his chest. Maybe it was remembering his own sister who died because he wasn't powerful enough to protect her. Maybe it was thinking about all the times he'd wished someone would step up when the world felt impossibly cruel. Mia, what exactly do you want me to do? She took a breath like she was jumping off a cliff. I want you to bring Emma home. I know you're important. I know people are afraid of you. But I also know you help people sometimes. Dante raised an eyebrow. Who told you that? Mr. Park from the pharmacy. He said when those men tried to rob him, you made them disappear. He said you protect the neighborhood. Dante almost smiled. Park had been paying him protection money for 6 years, but apparently he'd romanticized the arrangement. Mia, this isn't how things work. You can't just walk up to people like me and ask for help. But I did, she said simply. And you're still here. She was right. Any other night, any other person, Dante would be gone by now. His men were probably wondering if their boss had lost his mind, negotiating with an 8-year-old on the sidewalk. The bad men said if I call the police, they'll hurt Emma worse, Mia continued. They said if I tell anyone, I'll never see her again. But they didn't say I couldn't hire someone. Dante stared at this tiny girl, using the word hire, like she was conducting a business transaction. You want to hire me for $5? It's all I have right now, but I can get more. I can do chores, sell my toys, or… Mia. Dante's voice was gentle but firm. $5 isn't enough for what you're asking. Her face crumbled, and suddenly she looked exactly like what she was, a terrified 8-year-old whose world was collapsing. Please, she whispered. Emma's all I have until Dad comes home. If something happens to her, I'll be alone, and I don't know how to be alone. I'm only 8. Dante looked at the $5 bill in his hand, then back at Mia's tear-streaked face. In his line of work, emotions were weaknesses that got you killed. But listening to this kid talk about being alone, something inside him cracked. Tell me exactly what happened 4 nights ago. Mia straightened up, trying to be brave. Emma was making dinner, stir-fry. She always makes stir-fry on Monday nights because it's cheap and there's leftovers. Someone started banging on the door really hard like they'd break it down. Go on. Emma looked through the peephole and got scared. Really scared. She told me to hide in her bedroom closet and stay there no matter what I heard. But the walls are thin. I heard everything. Mia's voice dropped to barely a whisper. They said Emma's ex-boyfriend owed them money before he went to prison. $15,000. They said she had to pay it or they'd take me instead. Dante's blood went cold. 15,000 was nothing to him. What he spent on dinner some weeks. But to a 19-year-old nursing assistant, it might as well be 15 million. What did Emma say? She told them we don't have that kind of money. She showed them her bank account on her phone, $127. That's all we had saved. Jackson checked his watch. They had other business tonight. But Dante held up his hand. What did they do? They laughed, said she could work it off, special work. When she refused, they grabbed her. She screamed at me to stay hidden, to be brave, to find someone who could help. Mia's voice cracked. They put her in the van. One of them said they'd come back in 5 days for their answer. That was 4 days ago, tomorrow night. Dante's jaw clenched. The Volkovs weren't just pushing drugs. They were trafficking people in his neighborhood, right under his nose. Mia, where have you been staying these 4 nights? In our apartment. I know how to make sandwiches and cereal. I've been waiting for Emma, but she hasn't come home. Dante exchanged a look with Reed. An 8-year-old had been living alone for 4 days, surviving on hope and cereal, while her sister was God knows where. Why me? Why not the police or a teacher? Because Mr. Park said you're the only one the bad men actually fear. He said when you tell people to do something, they do it. And he said, you have rules about families. Dante almost laughed. His reputation for protecting families had more to do with reducing police attention than morality. But somehow this kid had seen through the violence. Too, something he'd forgotten existed. Maya, what you're asking could be very dangerous. These men hurt people for fun. If I help you, there will be violence. People will get hurt. Mia looked up at him with those wide, dark eyes. Will you get hurt? The question stunned him. When was the last time someone worried about his safety? I'll be fine, he said softly. But Mia, if I do this, if I get Emma back, you can never tell anyone. Not police, teachers, friends. Understand? Mia nodded so hard her hair bounced. I promise. I swear on Emma's life. Dante stood slowly, his knees protesting at 42 years of street life, but looking down at Mia Chen, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Purpose. Jackson, he said, without turning. Call Marcus. Tell him to bring the secondary vehicle. Reed, radio all units. Full response. Heavy weapons. Boss, Jackson said carefully. We're going after the Volkovs over it, kid. Dante turned, and both men stepped back involuntarily. They'd seen their boss angry before. This was different. This was personal. We're cleaning up our territory, Dante said quietly. The Volkovs have been pushing boundaries for months. Taking someone's sister crosses every line we have. He looked back at Mia. Kid, I need you to do something brave. Can you handle brave? Mia nodded. I need you to go to Mr. Park's pharmacy. Tell him Dante sent you, and you need to stay there until I come get you. Don't leave for any reason. Don't talk to anyone except Mr. Park. Can you do that? You're really going to help me? Mia's voice was barely audible. Dante knelt down one last time and gently placed his hand on her shoulder. Mia, I give you my word. Emma will be home tonight. Fresh tears flowed down her cheeks, but different now. Relief, hope, gratitude mixed together. Thank you, she sobbed. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you're having breakfast with Emma tomorrow. Mia started toward the pharmacy, then stopped and turned back. Mr. Dante, what if they come looking for me? Dante smiled, and for the first time in years it reached his eyes. Then they'll have to go through me first. Within 15 minutes, Dante's entire operation mobilized. Phone calls rippled through the city like electricity through dark water. Crews from the docks, enforcers from downtown, specialists who handled problems that required permanent solutions. By 9:30, 28 men had assembled in the back room of the Iron Rose. These weren't ordinary criminals. Dante handpicked every member based on absolute loyalty and the ability to handle business without creating heat. Ex-military, former special ops who'd crossed lines they couldn't uncross. Men who understood that some jobs required surgical precision. Listen up, Dante said. standing at a table covered with maps, photos, and weapons. The Volkovs have been testing us for months. Tonight, they crossed a line that doesn't exist. He placed a photo of Mia on the table. Several men shifted uncomfortably. Children changed everything. 8 years old, sister taken 4 days ago. The Volkovs are demanding 15,000 her sister's ex supposedly owed them. But this isn't about money. It's about respect. It's about territory. It's about the fact that these animals think they can traffic people in our neighborhood without consequences. Jackson cleared his throat. Boss, intelligence says they're using that abandoned meat processing plant by the river. Perfect place to keep people hidden. How many? 10, maybe 12. Armed but careless. Not expecting trouble. Definitely not expecting us. Good. Dante's voice was ice. Here's how this works. We go in quiet. We get Emma Chen out alive. Anyone who touched her doesn't leave. Anyone who even looked at her wrong doesn't leave. The Volkov brothers specifically get special attention. Marcus, Dante's oldest lieutenant, spoke up. What about other victims they might have? Everyone comes out. Complete cleanup. Nothing like this happens again in our territory. The men nodded. They'd done this before, but never for reasons like this. Usually, it was business, territory disputes, unpaid debts, disrespect requiring violent correction. This felt different, personal. Dante showed them a photo that had been sent to his phone an hour earlier. A young woman tied to a chair in what looked like a cold storage room. Emma Chen, alive but terrified. They sent this thinking I'd pay ransom, Dante said quietly. They were wrong. Reed studied the photo. I know this place. Old processing plant near the industrial docks. Lots of hiding spots, but only 2 exits. If we move fast, we lock it down before anyone escapes. Perfect. Dante distributed weapons from a duffel bag. Marcus, take 10 men, cover the north exit. Reed, 8 men on south. Jackson, you're with me. Front entrance. Police response? One of the younger men asked. Dante smiled without warmth. Police don't patrol that area after dark. Too dangerous. Besides, this will be over before anyone thinks to call them. The convoy moved through the city like ghosts. 3 black SUVs, tinted windows, plates that would lead nowhere if checked. They took back roads, avoided cameras, used routes Dante had memorized over 12 years of staying ahead of law enforcement. The meat processing district was exactly what you'd expect from a place where people disappeared. Abandoned warehouses, broken streetlights, the kind of neighborhood where screaming wouldn't bring help because everyone knew better than to get involved. Dante's SUV stopped 2 blocks away. Through night vision, he could see lights in the old processing plant. Guards on patrol, but casual, bored. The Volkovs had gotten comfortable. That was about to change. Marcus in position, north exit secured. Reed here, south entrance covered, 2 guards down, bodies concealed. Dante checked his weapon one final time. A .45 caliber Sig Sauer he'd carried for 10 years. Custom grip, never missed. Jackson, you ready? Been ready since that kid showed up with $5. Nobody takes sisters in our neighborhood. Nobody, Dante agreed. They moved like shadows across the complex. Years of coordinated operations had taught them to communicate without words, to anticipate movements, to strike with precision that left no room for error. The first guard went down before drawing his weapon. The second reached for his radio, but never got the chance. Inside the processing plant, they found what Dante expected and hoped they wouldn't. Evidence of human trafficking on a scale that made his blood boil. Photos, documents, a ledger showing dozens of transactions involving people sold like merchandise. Boss. Reed's voice crackled through the earpiece. Found her. Cold storage room 3. She's alive but drugged. Looks like they sedated her. Anyone with her? 2 guards. Not anymore. Dante felt tension release slightly. Emma Chen was alive. He could keep his promise to Mia. Marcus, status? Storage room 7. You need to see this. They've got 3 other women here, all in bad shape. Dante closed his eyes briefly. The Volkovs weren't just kidnapping Emma. They were running a full operation in his territory under his nose. Get everyone out. Medical attention for anyone who needs it. Safe transport wherever they want to go. Full protection. What about the Volkov brothers? Dante checked his watch. 11:52 p.m. Mia had been waiting almost 3 hours. Office on the second floor. That's where we finished this. The walk to the second floor felt like a funeral march. Dante had killed before, always for business. This was different. This was justice for an 8-year-old girl who'd offered him everything she owned. The brothers were exactly what he expected. Viktor Volkov, the older one, was counting money when Dante's team breached the office. Alexei Volkov was on the phone, arranging another pickup. Both reached for weapons. Neither made it. Dante Cross, Victor said, hands rising slowly. We can work this out. Business is business. You're right, Dante replied calmly. Business is business. Your business just ended. The girl's worth $15,000 to us. We split 60-40. You take the bigger cut. Everyone profits. Dante stepped closer. Let me tell you about that girl. Her name is Emma Chen. She's 19. She works as a nursing assistant. Her mother died of cancer 3 years ago. Her father's deployed overseas serving our country, and she's been trying to raise her 8-year-old sister alone. The brothers exchanged glances. Tonight, that 8-year-old sister walked up to me and offered me $5 to help her. $5. Everything she had in the world because you animals took her sister. Look, we didn't know she was connected to you, Alexei said quickly. Misunderstanding. We can fix this. Dante pulled out his phone, showing them the photo they'd sent. Emma Chen, terrified and helpless. You made her take this photo. You laughed while she cried. You threatened a child. It was just business, Victor insisted. Nothing personal. You're wrong, Dante said quietly. This couldn't be more personal. What happened next took exactly 60 seconds. When it was over, the Volkov trafficking operation was permanently closed. Dante walked to cold storage room 3, where Jackson was helping Emma Chen to her feet. She was weak, disoriented, but alive. Her eyes focused on Dante with confusion. Who are you? I'm a friend of your sister's, Dante said gently. Mia's waiting for you at Mr. Park's pharmacy. She's been very brave. Emma started crying, not from fear, but relief. Mia, is she okay? Did they hurt her? She's fine, scared, but fine. She's the reason you're safe. I don't understand. Dante helped Emma toward the exit. Your sister came to me tonight. She offered me $5 to help you. Bravest thing I've ever seen. As they walked through the processing plant, Emma looked around at the aftermath. She was smart enough to understand what had happened. You killed people for us, she said quietly. I protected my neighborhood, Dante corrected. There's a difference. Why? You don't know us. Dante stopped and looked at this young woman who'd survived 4 days of hell because her 8-year-old sister refused to give up. Emma, you raised a sister who walked up to the most dangerous man in the neighborhood and asked for help. Not because she was reckless, but because she knew right from wrong and was willing to risk everything to save you. That makes you someone worth protecting. Mr. Park's pharmacy had never felt so bright. Mia sat behind the counter, legs swinging, staring at the door. She'd been watching for what felt like forever, jumping at every shadow. When the door opened at midnight, Mia's heart nearly stopped. But instead of the bad men, Dante Cross walked through with the most beautiful sight she'd ever seen. Her sister, Emma. Mia launched herself forward and ran faster than she'd ever run. Emma caught her and held her so tight it hurt. But Mia didn't care. She breathed in her sister's familiar smell, coconut shampoo and the vanilla lotion she wore. Baby, oh my baby, Emma whispered, tears streaming. I'm so sorry I left you alone. I wasn't alone, Mia said, muffled against Emma's shoulder. Mr. Dante helped me, just like I knew he would. Emma looked up at Dante, who stood quietly by the door. How can I ever thank you? Dante reached into his pocket and pulled out the crumpled $5 bill. He walked over and placed it gently in Mia's small hand. "Your payment's been refunded," he said with a slight smile. "Consider the job completed at no charge." Mia looked down at the money, then back up at Dante. "But I hired you. That was our deal." "You gave me something worth more than money tonight, kid." "What?" Dante knelt down to Mia's level one last time. "You reminded me why I do what I do. Sometimes we forget that protecting people isn't just about business. Sometimes it's about doing what's right." Mia carefully folded the $5 bill and put it in her pocket. "Will the bad men come back?" "No," Dante said with absolute certainty. "They won't be bothering anyone ever again." Emma understood what that meant, but she didn't ask for details. "What happens now?" Emma asked. "You go home, you lock your doors, you live your life." Dante handed her a simple business card with just a phone number. "But Emma, if anyone ever threatens you or Mia again, you call this number, day or night. No questions asked." "I can't pay you?" "You don't need to. Mia's already paid for a lifetime of protection." Jackson stepped forward. "Boss, we should go." Dante nodded, then looked back at Mia. "You take care of your sister, okay? And Mia, remember what you learned tonight. Sometimes the right person will help you, even when the world feels scary. You just have to be brave enough to ask." "I will," Mia promised solemnly. As Dante headed toward the door, Mia called out, "Mr. Dante, are you a good guy or a bad guy?" Dante paused. In his world, the lines between good and bad weren't clear. He'd done terrible things to terrible people. He'd broken laws, hurt enemies, operated outside society's rules for 12 years. But tonight, he'd saved a sister. He'd kept a promise to an 8-year-old girl who believed in him when she had nowhere else to turn. "I'm whatever I need to be," he said finally. "Tonight, I got to be the good guy." 3 months later, Dante was having dinner at the Iron Rose when Mr. Park walked in with a small envelope. Inside was a hand-drawn picture. Stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. At the bottom, in careful 8-year-old handwriting, "Thank you, Mr. Dante. Love, Mia and Emma." Dante never framed awards or newspaper clippings, but that drawing went up on his office wall right next to the map of his territory. Because sometimes the most dangerous man in the neighborhood needs to remember what he's really protecting. Mia Chen grew up safe. She graduated high school with honors, went to college, became a social worker helping at-risk youth. Every year on the anniversary of that night, she'd leave a small envelope at the Iron Rose. Always the same thing, a $5 bill and a note that said, "For the next kid who needs help." Dante kept every single one, because that's the thing about courage. It doesn't matter how big you are, how much money you have, or how many people fear your name. Sometimes the bravest person in the room is an 8-year-old girl with $5 and hope. And sometimes that's exactly what the world needs.